by the National Bank, New Zealand's #1 rural bank.
Dairying. In many ways, it's a terrible chore. Up each day at the crack of dawn, then out again 10 hours later to go through exactly the same routine. And it goes on 7 days a week, month after month, with the only break in the depths of winter. Noel Hilliam's done it virtually all his life, but he sees the positive side of dairy farming too. Yes, there are the daily tasks, but in between there's a lot of free time to do other things. And a daily routine's not such a bad thing anyway. Noel runs his 120 dairy cattle on the same land where the Dalmatians used to dig for kauri gum last century, near Dargaville in Northland. It's not exactly one of your advanced high-tech operations, but what's there is all paid for, and the setup suits the Hilliams just fine. It's provided enough to raise their 5 children to adulthood, and it's still going strong. Noel's wife Julie often helps with the milking, but when she's not around, Noel's more than happy to put in a bit of extra time and do it all on his own. Dairying has been Noel's lifetime work.
How long have you been doing this, Noel?
Well, just on half a century ago when I first milked a cow in the old family shed here.
Well, a lot of people at your age and stage will get a share milker on. Why haven't you done that?
That's right, but I enjoy cows. A lot worse jobs than milking cows, and I love the farm, dairy farming, and well, if I got a share milker on, you'd have to increase your fertiliser, you'd have to increase your maintenance, and increase costs, and increase worry. Well, what the hell? We're enjoying life as it is at the moment. We're not making a fortune, but we're comfortable.
You don't get sick of milking?
No, doesn't worry me.
Julie and Noel are the third generation of Hilliams to work the dairy farm. Noel's grandfather, Charles Edward Hilliam, originally came to New Zealand to look for his older brother, who'd left his wife and children and run off with the upstairs parlourmaid. His family task completed, he stayed on and set up a horse and wagon team to carry supplies to the Dargaville gum diggers and transport their kauri gum back to town. Eventually, Noel's grandfather bought some land and decided to try dairy farming, thus starting a long family tradition.
It was known as the Gumfield poor man's land, and everyone thought that he was an idiot to try and establish a dairy farm on the Gumfield, but he proved them all wrong, and this is actually the first dairy farm ever to be established on the Gumfields.
Well, Noel, you've obviously got a strong sense of history about the place.
Oh, very much so. Part of the history of the old Gumfields out round this area here, and the river was fairly close, it's handy there where the shipping was.
And your father, I gather, was always a bit of a storyteller.
Oh, he certainly was, right. He spent a bit of time at sea, originally on the old scows and the sailing ships, then the last one was the Niagara, and the great stories he used to tell us about his adventures, and he'd add to them and make up. And in those days, like when we were brought up as children, there was no such thing as TV and not very many storybooks during the school year, the war years, and so the bedtime stories was a lot to do with the adventures he had in the early days as a young man. We've got some photographs of the old place in the house if you'd like to have a look. So grandmother, grandfather, 1917 Christmas, father on the horse, and the 2 young ones in the trap there. That's my grandfather, Charles Edward Hilliam, known to all the gum diggers around here as Mr. Charlie. He was the wagoner who collected the gum and delivered the stores and established the farm here. First of all, they had to drain the swamp, the peat swamp where all the carry timber was.
To a fairly amazing depth.
Oh, it certainly was, right. It eventually went down to about 10 feet to drain the upper reaches of the swamp up here.
Now, there were stumps as well they had to pull out.
That's right. And logs, massive carry timber logs and carry stumps. And somewhere in here, they some photographs of them developing the marn paddock. All done by horse. And block and tackle. This is where Dad put a lot of his shipping skills, doing rigging and single and double, triple Burton, using dead man and the horses, and they get move logs 30, 40 tonne with horses.
The struggles of Noel's grandfather and then his father have left the Hilliams with 100 hectares of good dairying land. But even though the development work is done, they don't sit round idly. Julie in particular is keen on her garden. She's a firm believer in the old methods such as companion planting to keep down the numbers of insect pests rather than using too many chemical sprays. And as for fertiliser, they've simply situated the garden immediately downhill from the cowshed and left nature and gravity to do the rest. It still needs a fair bit of hard work under the Northland sun, but it pays off. They grow enough vegetables for themselves and have plenty left over to give away to friends and family.
Lunchtime.
Feeding the ducks and hens is also Julie's province, although anyone who's visiting is likely to get roped in to help.
And Mother Duck likes it too. Oh, he's here. Come on, Drake. You finished me, my baby. Aren't they beautiful? Mother Duck.
The Hilliams love their relaxed lifestyle. It's the sort of situation in which it would be tempting to put your feet up and take it easy. But the Hilliams are constantly busy. Noel in particular is a man always keen on new adventures. Pinecroft Airfield is the paddock right next to the house. Noel Hilliam is a keen flyer.
You find the plane pretty useful?
Very useful. I can leave Queen Street at 4 o'clock, drive out to Dairy Flat and be home to milk the cows at 5.
He's built his own plane from wood covered in fabric and lovingly looked after.
What made you choose one of these?
Well, I had the opportunity to fly, and the only one flying in New Zealand at the time, about 25 years ago up at Kaikoui, and as soon as I flew it, made my mind up that was the plane for me to build and fly. Just get the dust covers off.
So you sent away for the plans and...
Yes, the plans came from the Isle of Wight, and the material from Finland, Germany, Sitka spruce from Canada.
You must have put a bit of effort into building this.
Just on 2,000 hours of blood, sweat and tears over 18 months building the minicab. Get these dust covers off and you'll be able to see the little baby.
So it's tight as a drum, isn't it?
That's right, that's the cotton fabric on there. And if it didn't sound like that, you'd be in trouble. You'd have to reskin it. But the normal test is a real finger. Press your fingers down, and if there's any impressions left, that's when it needs refurbishing.
An aircraft of fabric construction might not appeal to everyone, but Noel says as long as it's well maintained, it's perfectly safe. He uses the plane to commute around the country, but most of all he likes to fly up and down the wild west coast beach near the farm, looking for signs of old shipwrecks among the constantly shifting sand. flying gives Noel great enjoyment and satisfaction.
Sheer pleasure and beauty, and tranquility and solitude once you're up there by yourself. Nothing like it.
Noel says strong currents can strip away the sands to reveal old secrets.
You get these abnormal conditions, you get these guts form. Hello, the shipwrecks, the remains of shipwrecks. In particular, I won't say exactly where it is, but there's a fully rigged sailing ship laying on its side down the coast here, and that came uncovered last year, but we haven't seen that since. But this is the sort of thing you spot. Sharks in a lot closer, chasing the mullet, and also stingrays. There's no end of new things arriving on the coast, and these are the sort of things you can spot from the air. This is a monument to the French corvette Alcemain, which was launched in France in 1834, wrecked on the beach here just south of Bailey's, 3rd of June 1851.
And an important ship to the French.
Oh, very much so to the French people in the Pacific. It's held in the same regard as we do Cook's Endeavour.
And I gather there's a bit of a story to your discovering this wreck.
Well, I'd been searching him for many years, and one day I had the plane out here on the beach, and an old family friend, 76-year-old Mrs. Gorkrodger, never flown before, wanted to go for a fly in a plane, so I took her up, and as we were taking off, there it was. I sort of spotted it down the water, all uncovered. And from then, the next day on, it's been all go and salvage and recovery from it.
There are more recent wrecks here too, like the Aoski, a yacht that was sailing single-handed from Fiji to New Plymouth in 1994.
We got round into the Tasman, and one of our typical Tasman storms blew up, and we arrived in here at 4:30 in the morning on the beach here, about 5 k's south of Bailey's Beach.
He must have been lucky to have lived through it.
Oh, he's a very lucky man. Knowing this coast and the conditions, particularly that time, he was very lucky. But it shows you it was a well-appointed and well-designed boat that brought him in here on the beach.
Now, what actually happened when he got ashore?
Well, he hit the beach here and apparently leapt overboard when one of the big swells pulled back, and ran up, scaled up the cliffs there. 4:30 in the morning, not knowing where he was, or he let off a couple of distress flares, but no one saw it. And he hiked up over there, and after about an hour, a couple of hours, he came across a farmer going for his cows, and he wondered where the hell he'd come from.
The yacht's owner, Lindsay Wright, had bought the boat in Fiji after it was confiscated by the government there from a previous owner. Although he escaped with his life from the wreck, the surf soon half-buried the boat.
This was the aft cabin. There was luxuriously appointed, beautiful panelling. See, there's still a bit of mahogany there, but once the hatches were taken off that first day, the next tide came in and just scoured and ripped it right out. Just one tide. All that panelling, decor gone. Apparently prior to Lindsay Wright purchasing it in Fiji, it had been used as a drug runner, and they'd arrived in Fiji with some 5 tonne of dope on board. This is the false waterline that was painted on the vessel before they arrived in Fiji.
All the beach's secrets will never be revealed, but no one works harder to discover them than Noel Hilliam. When Noel Hilliam's not flying over the beach near his farm, he's down taking a closer look.
You never know what you're going to come across walking up, fossicking up and down the dunes, and fortunately it's a damn good road out there, it's plenty wide and not too much traffic, and your eyes are from the water up to the cliffs the whole way along. And I've sort of developed a trained eye over the years. I can spot something in a hurry that others can't. And just through experience, really.
Noel's love of the beach and the sea comes from his family. Now, I think there's some photographs in here of your father as well on his...
That's right, when he left the farm in the younger days and went away initially on the scows.
That's one of the scows there.
That's, yes, the hero.
So he didn't ever want to just stay there and not farm, you think?
Well, he'd go and spent his early days on the wagon round the gum camps, then saw the development of the farm, and he decided to have a break after, well, he was into his late 30s when he decided to take off, and he spent nearly 7 years on ships all around the world. He went round the Horn 7 times, which is something he's quite proud of.
Then came back to the farm?
Yes, and then came back to the farm. Well, he met my mother in 1932, and that was it. His sea days were gone, and so he came back to the farm.
All around the farmyard are tanks containing treasure, like these anchors from 19th century shipwrecks.
Well, they've been going through a conservation process, treatment process, which has to be done to save them, keep them for all time. And they're just in the last stages now. I'm actually using rainwater off the roof of the buildings here because the distilled water, which you're supposed to use, is too prohibitive for me to buy. So I'm using the rainwater here to finish the treatment off.
How long have they been in there?
The bottom one, 2 years, and the upper one, the smaller one, that's since the beginning of this year, and it's responded quite remarkably to treatment, actually.
You've obviously got a lot of stuff from all sorts of wrecks around here.
The variety of relics, Julian, off the numerous shipwrecks off the coast. There's the cargo hooks, the cannon chain, the cannon hooks off the Elsemaine, which was built in France in 1829, wrecked out here in 1851.
So you get down to the beach and dive whenever you can?
Oh, every possible chance I get. It's a full-time hobby. Some people say my farm's a hobby, but don't worry me, I enjoy myself.
What's the stuff here?
This is what we term concretion. It's the build-up on marine relics on the coast and in the sand. In particular, this is off the Southcombe Castle. There's 130-odd years of growth on the anchor there. You can see the graining effect there where the hand-forged anchor was. But it acts like a magnet and it attracts the surrounding material. You can see the sand, the rocks, the pebble, the shell and that, and the build-up there. When any metal object is buried in the sand out here, you get this sort of an oxidation process, and the metal objects attract the surrounding material and solidify and just slowly builds up and it goes as hard as concrete, really.
So obviously this here that's an example of concretion.
Yes, that's another form of concretion which we recovered off this whale ship, came uncovered in January this year. That is actually small chain which they slung the tripods, the whale pots in. So we're leaving that to go on display in the museum to show people an example of chain in concretion.
But the museum exhibits Noel is most proud of are those from the 140-year-old wreck of the vessel Elsemaine.
It's taken 6 years, just over 6 years, to do the conservation process on those two shells just there. Well, we've got the gun sight and the firing mechanism off the large Romy cannon, belt buckles, shoe buckles, buttons off the uniform, lock plates, hinges, some of the fastenings.
Now this down here must be the prize exhibit.
This is one of the cannons off at the upper deck ones. That's a bronze cannon. That was actually presented to the commandant of the ship by King Louis of France at the time.
So it's amazing this stuff has lasted
so
long, so well.
It was a very well appointed ship, this one, and only the best materials went into the building of it. And being preserved in our sand out here, it's a wonderful preserving medium, providing they don't come in contact with an opposing element, they last.
So these really look like just about like they must have on the day they were made.
Quite true. They're that well preserved, but the main thing is the conservation process. If that isn't done, well, you may as well forget about them.
Noel's put thousands of hours into building up the Maritime Museum at Dargaville, but back at home there's still the farm to look after. Even though he's lived all his life on the same farm, Noel has experienced constant change, especially with the climate. He says the weather has become more extreme. with longer droughts and heavier rains, and a new ocean current now brushes the coast.
We used to have a northerly set on the coast with the current, but since 1981 we've got the southerly set. The current is drifting south. Our winds used to be from the southwest, and now they back round to the northwest, and when they come in they really blow. That's our worst quarter now, really.
Now, a current coming from the north would presumably be warmer.
It is a bit warmer. I think about 2 or 3 degrees going on the Tuatua gatherers out there. And also we've picked up quite a few little tropical snakes on the beach out here.
The beach near Noel's farm was a continuous 80 or so kilometre stretch northwards from the entrance of the Kaipara harbour. Aside from the intrigue of historic shipwrecks, it also has some more immediate benefits. Tuatuas are there for the taking, and there are plenty of them as long as you know the right places to look. The technique for finding them in the sand isn't too difficult either. You just do the twist and try to avoid the crabs. The beach is central to Noel's life at Dargaville. Its wildness is what has caused so many ships to be wrecked here, and that same unpredictability is what makes the remains of the wrecks appear and disappear, like ghosts among the surf and dunes. Whether Noel's searching for historic secrets or just a bite for the barbecue, he's often joined by his friend and co-worker Sam. Sam is yet to discover a significant shipwreck, but he prefers tuatuas anyway, and when it comes to catching them, he has his own technique. Noel Hilliam has spent all his life on a dairy farm, but in the end he's most at home here on the beach.